loads of seats. Hello. Welcome to this morning's Hootsuite social breakfast, and thanks for joining us here at the Ham Yard Hotel. What a fantastic space. And also welcome to everyone joining us over the live stream today. Got lots and lots of countries represented, so it's fantastic to see so many people getting involved. Our theme for today is leveraging social to maximize our business results. It's a key topic. We're hearing it from a lot of people. My name is Adrian Cockle. I'll be your host for today. And I am an industry principal here at Hootsuite, which means I'm kind of an internal consultant, working with our clients to help them realize the best business results from their social media activity. As a little bit of background, I've been doing social media for quite a long time. So when I started, it looked like this, with green text on a black background in my university computer department. Back when the concept that you might have friends that you'd never actually met was considered a little bit weird. Nerd. I've had a career in digital, so I've worked for agencies and I worked for clients. I was part of the team that launched Sony Bravia digitally in Europe. I don't know if you remember the bouncy balls down the hill in San Francisco. So we did all the early social activity around that. I worked for Warner Brothers on a B2B site. And most recently worked for WWF for 9 years as their head of digital in the UK, and then for WWF International. It was while I was at WWF that I bought Hootsuite. I was a client before I started working here. So we bought Hootsuite Enterprise and rolled it out to about 60 people around the world across the WWF network. That was great, and I did a load of joint PR with Hootsuite at the time. I did our case study video where I got interviewed in our lovely building down in Woking, which is a lot of fun, until I joined Hootsuite. And then on my second day in the job, I was having my induction, and the person doing all that showed a load of screenshots of WWF social activity, and it's like, oh, thanks. And then she showed the case study video. It's like, oh, no. I think I've banned everyone from showing that now. It's just too embarrassing sort of working here now and being shown as a client. So here's what we're going to be doing today. I'm going to be giving a little bit of an introduction to the topic for the first 10 minutes. After that, our friend Cara from TalkWalker, one of our monitoring and listening partners, is going to be coming in and exploring what makes a killer measurement strategy. Then we have Päivi from Nokia, who's going to be talking about how they've become a social media superpower. And then my colleague Rylan will be moderating a panel discussion with our friends and clients from AXA PPP, eConsultancy, Oslo and Akershus University College, and Cara from TalkWalker. After that, I hope you will join us for coffee in the next room. I know this is a conversation that has happened on Twitter a little bit. We will be having a minute's silence at 11 o'clock to remember the victims of the Manchester attack. And of course, there's a hashtag. Please join in on social, tweet, Instagram, everything. And we've got our fantastic team from Hootsuite who are going to be tweeting along as well. So, first of all, a little bit of audience participation. Can I ask you to put your hand up if you produce or if you read reports on social activity? Most of the room. Excellent. Okay, and put your hand up if they talk about things like followers, likes, retweets, general engagement stats. Yeah? Okay, now hand up if they talk about your business objectives like revenue, brand awareness, or customer satisfaction. A few. Okay, and finally one last one. Put your hand up if reporting on those benefits of social is one of your biggest challenges at the moment. Okay. We hear the same thing from the hundreds of clients, the other social senior communications managers like you that we talk to every week. They're all saying, we need more information, more insights, more analysis on what social media is doing for us. And it's not just us. We're seeing this from Forrester. So this is a report they published a couple of months ago saying that quantifying business impact of social is the biggest measurement challenge for marketers. What can we do about that? So let's just define our terms to start with. What is social ROI? Well, we often use it as a placeholder for defining and measuring success. You know, the R in ROI is the sum of all the social media actions that create value. So it's going to be different from every organization. So I talked about the launch of Sony Bravia. You know, that wasn't let's generate revenue. The brief for that whole campaign was let's make Bravia famous. So we're tracking brand impact on that. You know, what's the audience recognition of the Sony Bravia brand, because it had no footprint in Europe before that point. And the I is the investment. This is all the time and resources. It's not necessarily just media spend, although that's becoming more and more important. It's your own time, it's your audience's attention, it's the money you spend commissioning content. You might even be paying professional influencers, and all of this goes into that part of the equation. But by going through this process of connecting your social activity to your business goals, you really do have that best response, which I think we probably, you know, many of us in the room would recognize, where you're going to senior management asking for resources to invest, and they go, well, social media, that's all free, isn't it? No. But remember, you have to define what ROI means based on your organization's objectives, your culture, your structure, your budgets, and the resources available to you. Here's a little example. Probably like many of you in the room, I recently bought an Amazon Echo. I'd heard people talking about it. I'd seen things all across the internet talking about the benefits of these things. And I was curious. I'm a bit of a geek, so gadgets are fantastic. And being an Amazon customer, they had targeted me with emails and with sponsored posts in Facebook. And I think it was one of these that was offering me a discount. It's like, yeah, actually, no, time to pull the trigger. So I clicked on it. Obviously, Amazon, you go straight through to, you know, a very well-designed page saying add to basket. So I clicked on that, and I had one a day or two later. It's a great gadget. Very simple. And for Amazon's marketing team, that's a really, really simple route to measure and report on. At about the same time, I was looking at buying a new car. So, you know, as you may have guessed from 9 years at WWF, I'm a little bit of a tree hugger. And I was really keen for my next car to be an electric car. So this is what I ended up buying. It's an electric Ioniq from Hyundai. Fantastic car. But unsurprisingly, the path to purchase was a little bit more complicated than with the Echo. You know, EVs are still a very new technology, and there was a lot of sort of complications that I wanted to make sure I was researching before making a very significant investment. You know, it's the second biggest investment after your house. So I first heard about this particular car from YouTube. A channel I'd subscribed to did a review of it, and it was like, oh, that's fantastic. That's kind of exactly what I want. I read tweets about it. I went to Hyundai's website and got the very kind of equivalent of the glossy brochure that the dealer gave you. I joined owners groups on Facebook, so getting the kind of nitty-gritty behind the scenes, kind of what Hyundai aren't telling you. And I got emails from the dealer as well once I'd started that relationship with them. So as a marketer, how do you make sense of all these different touch points? Some of them you own, some of them you earn, some of them you have no control over. You know, these are a really big, messy ball of interactions that all go into that purchase decision. Well, I think it's fair to say you won't be able to measure your return on investment on social media if you don't understand how much you've actually invested in it. And remember, like I said earlier, it's not just the tools and the technology and the media spend. So we've got this framework that we've developed that we use, which is, you know, starting off with your objectives, thinking about your goals, the metrics you're measuring, your benchmarks, and your analysis. And I'm going to talk about each one of these in a little bit more detail. So first of all, your objectives. To prove the value of social across your organization, you need to connect your social media activities to your specific business outcomes. You know, this is how you answer the question, why are you using social? You know, if it's just, oh, because we want to be there, then that's going to be a really weak conversation to have with senior management when you're asking for more investment. But your objectives could be things like business conversions, so, you know, purchasing, lead generation, could be brand awareness, like the Bravia example. It could be customer experience. A lot of companies use social media for being able to handle customer queries. It could be advocacy campaigning. You know, I spent time at WWF where one of our key metrics was getting people to sign their names on petitions. But how do you choose those objectives? Well, firstly, don't overcomplicate it. You know, a lot of organizations say, well, we want to be able to track sales, we want to track brand, we want to track, customer service as well. And unless you've got a really big, sophisticated team, it's going to be really hard to keep an eye on all of those things and have them influence your business. So look at what you're really making an impact on. You know, if you're seeing a real kind of gain of momentum in your brand alignment, then, you know, let's look at how we support that. And most importantly, it's really critical to avoid that kind of social media silo. You know, as the industry has grown in maturity, you know, we've got away from social being, you know, something that, you know, was half of one person's job. And we've grown into a place where, you know, it's very common to have a social media team. But again, let's make sure we break out of that team. How are we having conversations across the organization about the value of social media? You know, we see people using it for recruitment as well as, you know, sales, brand awareness, lead generation. Secondly, setting goals. So this is that classic SMART objective. You know, how are we making sure that it's specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time-based? For example, if your objective is to raise awareness, you know, then a good goal would be something like boosting your social share by 10% by the end of the quarter. And this can really illustrate how you're creating your position as an industry leader within your sector. Third, choosing metrics. Anyone that's spent any time looking at something like Facebook Insights will know there are hundreds of things you can measure on social. But that doesn't mean you should. To avoid wasting time and resources, you really have to narrow down to those metrics that prove that you're having an impact on your bottom line. So this brings us to that slightly controversial topic. You know, people often talk about things like followers, likes, metrics, comments, and shares as vanity metrics. And there's no point measuring them or don't treat them seriously. To a degree, but it's also, these metrics can be integral to measuring your health as long as you associate them with other factors, as long as they're acting as a proxy for other parts of your activity. They only really become vanity metrics when they have no connection to your business objectives. So, questions to ask yourself. Does it align with my business objectives? Do I have the capacity to measure it effectively? Some things, measuring them costs money. You need to invest in specific tools, and that's fantastic. But you need to make sure that if you're going to be spending that money, it's going to be making a difference. And is it going to help you make better decisions? Let's not just think about metrics as ways of post-rationalizing success or otherwise. Actually use them to drive optimization and impact. If the answer is no, I think you've got to ask yourself why you're measuring it in the first place. And I think, you know, it could be quite useful to go back and look at those social media reports that you all put your hands up to at the beginning and just go back to those and say, okay, what decisions are these driving? Benchmarks. So this is the answer to the question, what does good look like? So, for instance, benchmarking cost per acquisition across all marketing channels is really critical to determining where your marketing spend is having its biggest impact. If your objective is to increase sales, you want to benchmark your sales today with and without social, so you've got a point of view on what difference you're making. And competitive benchmarks help you determine where you are within your sector or your industry. You know, what's the context that you're competing against or playing within? Also, you can do things like looking at the kind of content they're using. And you can use those likes and comments that are publicly shown to be able to create a lightweight benchmark to compare yourself against your competitors. And then finally, the active analysis and optimization. You know, you're not just using it to justify what you've been doing, you're using it to make a difference to what you're going to be doing in the future. And this is where people become more important than technology. A lot of people think that analysis and measurement is just a small part of someone's job, a side project, but it just doesn't work like that. You need someone to ask, what does this mean to us? What are we going to stop doing because of it? What are we going to start doing because of it? Or what are we going to keep doing because of this information? People are looking to technology to solve this, but it's all about the context. And that's a theme we're going to keep coming back to over the course of the morning. So what does that look like? So a little tutorial in Excel here. In practical terms, our metrics are our y-axis. So here we're using an example of cost per acquisition, how much it costs to get a particular customer. It could also be things like revenue, it could be brand awareness, it could be net promoter score, customer satisfaction, or signatures on a petition. It might be going up, it might be going down. You might want to keep it level. But it's important that whatever it is you're showing makes sense to all areas of the business that are seeing this. You know, your CEO might not really get what, you know, the total number of people liking your Facebook page means in real terms to the things he cares about, but, you know, that doesn't stop them thinking that bigger is always better. But if instead you show them things like net promoter scores or renewal rates or advocacy rates, then it really does change that conversation. Here's the benchmarks we were talking about. You know, this could be based on previous projects. It could be a year-on-year comparison. You know, it's an indicator. You know, here it's a straight line. This might be something, you know, that goes up or goes down that you're trying to follow over time. And what are you aiming for? Well, depending on the context, the benchmark and the goal might be identical. Or you might have been given a stretch goal, for instance. You know, here we're trying to reduce the cost per acquisition. So let's bring it down a bit. And then your actual data gets overlaid on this. So the key thing to note here is the graph isn't created at the end. This is a living, breathing thing that's used to support that decision making. And obviously it's not always going to point the right way. You know, I think part of that role of optimization is testing things and seeing how they make a difference. It could also be an external factor that caused the rise. You know, it could be that you've got a new competitor who all of a sudden has started bidding on the terms that you're bidding on, so you've got more competition. It could be a global event. It could be a holiday period. This is why we really like using sort of year-on-year or quarter-on-quarter comparisons, so you've got that kind of consistency. Now, it's not all simple and easy as drawing a graph in Excel. There's obviously some challenges, and we definitely aren't going to ignore that. I'm actually going to come back to these towards the end of the morning and have a separate little session on it. But next of all, I'd like to introduce Cara Bascalia, who's from TalkWalker, who's going to be going into a little bit more depth on some of the practicalities of this.
Thank you.
Cara, here you go.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Cara Bascalia. I'm the head of solutions at TalkWalker. And what I do with clients is really to help them understand their problems and challenges that they face in their everyday jobs and positions, and then how we can use the TalkWalker platform to tie that back to value and how we're going to measure success. So what we're going to cover today is a little bit about TalkWalker, why measurement matters, and then our approach to it, and key takeaways. And just before I dive in, I actually come from the communications world, and when I was actually executing communication and marketing strategies, I always found it comical that a key KPI was the actual measurement of impressions. And when I take that measurement to my CEO, which was really important to them, they want to see that in the growth over time. But how is that really measuring success when the total number can add up to more than the global population? I didn't quite understand it, so I started developing my own measurement programs. I took that back to them, and they didn't really see the value in that, so I realized they needed to shift into more of the data consulting world. And when I was at previously, when I was working in insights at a company called Ubiquity, really understanding market intelligence working with the Fortune 500, I actually brought in TalkWalker to help tie in the story of paid, earned, and owned. And so it really set the stage for when I moved to TalkWalker to really learn how to design these measurement programs from working with these clients on a regular basis. So a little bit about TalkWalker. TalkWalker is an online and social data intelligence platform that we really help with listening, analyzing, and reporting with a lot of our clients. We have had a headquarters in Luxembourg, and we have offices in New York, San Francisco, and Frankfurt. And what we really do is we really want to work with our clients to understand their objectives across various media sources. So we're collecting data from not only social data channels, but also online, traditional print, broadcast, blogs, and forums. Because we really truly believe that tying all of these inputs together really tells the story and really helps you develop these measurement programs. So why measurement? So again, we'll quote Forrester for the second time for the day. I think it's really important to understand this is a complex and changing landscape. And so it's really hard to develop measurement because a lot of people are struggling to see the success in developing measurement and how that's actually quantifiable. There's been a lot of success with tying social media to qualitative results, but it hasn't quite hit the mark yet in how to really develop a robust measurement program. So the answer to solve why measurement programs happen is done through a series of actually outlining goals. And what you need to do is you really need to determine what your objectives are at the beginning of the measurement program development. And what you need to do is, I really tell a lot of my clients, is it really comes back to an issues and message framework and developing an issue tracker. So at the beginning of the engagement, you really need to sit down, figure out what your goals about and objectives are, outline them, and then develop what issues might go into that. And through an issue tracker, you can set up things around management, financials, campaign initiatives, additionally CSR around that as well. And it's having that issue tracker in place that can really make the difference in setting up an early warning system to protect your reputation, to measure on a quarterly or annual basis, to take that into your C-level executives to help them understand how you're really moving the needle. So how you do this. I'm going to show a quote from Johnny Bentwood, the Chief Innovation Officer at Edelman Intelligence, and one of our clients that we work with on a regular basis. And I think this quote says it all. If you're developing a framework for measurement, you have to understand the point of it, and it has to become actionable. We can't just show a graph on a regular basis when it means nothing. You have to tie it to something actionable that can really make a difference. And so how we do this at TalkWalker is we develop this level approach, which I'll walk you through each of the different steps. So it's step one, understanding earned and owned communication. Step two, really looking at benchmarking against your competition. And then also looking at brand health. And then finally, tying that all back together with the business impact metrics, improving ROI through that. And we'll go through these in depth in the next couple ones. So assessing earned and owned. First, we must define owned. So what is owned channels? We all probably know this and are very familiar. Owned content is any content that you're posting on your social channels, meaning Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, so on and so forth. Some KPIs that you can use for that are engagement posts and times as well. So what you do with that, so we actually work with Hootsuite very closely, and we really provide with an end-to-end solution to our clients, understanding and measuring owned activity. One of our clients, Barney's New York, actually came to Hootsuite and TalkWalker because they really didn't know what to do to help grow. And they came to us because they wanted to understand how to grow their audience effectively. So what did we do initially when we first got in there? We understand what their objectives are, which is grow their audience organically, and how we can measure that to show success. And so what we've been doing with them is we came in, we assessed and normalized the numbers to figure out how often they're growing on a monthly basis, so we can use that as a standardized framework to set up for success and really see how they're moving the needle from quarter to quarter. Additionally, there's earned communication, and earned communication is basically anything that's generated without tagging your brand, naturally spoken word-of-mouth campaigns. And the way we work with our clients on that is actually an athletic brand came to us because they wanted to understand not only when people are talking about their brand, but also when people are actually wearing their logo. So by using TalkWalker's proprietary image recognition technology, we're able to actually pull in all clothing, shoes, having the logo in it, and then from there, having that framework being able to use text and visual analytics, we're able to segment their consumers into 3 groups based on fashion, comfort, and athletic sportswear. And we're able to measure this so that we can actually communicate so the brand can actually communicate messages effectively to their audience, different segments. So looking at benchmarking. We've already heard this concept before. Everyone's very familiar with benchmarking against your competition. You have to understand what others are doing well, learn from their mistakes, learn from the best practices, and it really helps inform and shape your strategy for the future. A lot of our clients come to us because they want to understand what their clients are doing. I strongly recommend this if you're entering into a new market or if you're launching a new product. As we've kind of mentioned earlier, it's really important to understand what's happening pre and post launch, and then monitoring during as well. Really helps with that. And setting up those measurement frameworks is so important so you can really show your ROI. Additionally, reputation and brand health. Everyone wants to understand what consumers are saying about them. And I think it's really important to understand how they're saying it across the different media types. And what I mean by that is the way people are communicating, like journalists online, is different than the way your audience is communicating on social. So as long as you know what your brand attributes are, and you can measure across those different media types and see if your messages are actually penetrating through to the right sources and how you're communicating. Additionally, in terms of measuring reputation, I think it really comes back to that issues tracking and framework. You really need to have a standardized approach across departments and markets so that you can really evaluate your reputation and measure it on an ongoing basis. I think a lot of us need to set up an early warning system using this issues framework so you can mitigate risks and prevent crises from taking off and going out of control. And when you have that, you can really manage expectations and really handle anything that's come towards your way if you have that established tracking system already. Then from there, I just wanted to talk about one of our major insurance clients that actually uses our real-time alerts. There was a huge scandal breaking out around bribery in Africa. And so using our issue tracking, we were able to mitigate the risk for that client. And so they were able to handle that crisis before it spiraled out of control and really went viral. So it really works. And getting those real-time alerts is really key to that. So proving ROI and tying it all together. So at Talkwalker, we really insist on combining social data with other data inputs, whether that's sales, stock price, weather data, sponsorship investments. The list goes on and on because you can really upload any data stream into the platform. You really need to understand those linkages between social and actual KPIs that you're bringing into your organization. I think one of the biggest things that a C-level really wants to understand is how to measure these items and how it really corresponds to each other. They know that the importance of social data, but everyone's still struggling how we can tell the story and really measure it effectively. In fact, we helped a major sports client using our business impact metrics incorporate sales data and sponsorship investment, and we were able to correlate that to understand that they really moved the needle up 6% in ROI. So it was really extraordinary. So at the end of the day, let's talk about the key takeaways. I think I've stressed this enough. It's so important to understand what your goals and objectives are when you're developing a measurement program. You really need to outline the objectives, think about what you're trying to accomplish, and sit down and involve as many people as you can so that they weigh in and you collaborate. I think the best engagements are done in collaboration because the more minds, the better. And I think that's just one way to do it. So once you work with your team to figure out what you want to track and why, I think you really need to use that issue tracker and really measure the issues so that way you can set up that early warning system to protect your reputation and protect your brand. And then we all know how important social is to understand your audience. I mean, talk about having the largest social media panel out there compared to any other market research firm. You literally have people who are engaging with your brand on a regular basis, and they're authentic. So why not listen and measure and see if you can move the needle? Maybe you're a brand, working with a major dairy brand, and they're trying to reposition themselves in the yogurt industry. Yogurt is really thought about as a breakfast food, but it's now really turning into more of a healthy snack. So how can you communicate that, and how can you measure that you're communicating that effectively is key and can be done through social media. And then obviously you have to have this ongoing evaluation of your KPIs. You need to regularly assess, have that standardized framework and reporting basic foundation in place and lay that groundwork down, but then evaluate, assess if it's working, really understand how you're moving the needle, and I think that's really the key to success. And then finally, I'll leave you with this. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. Thank you all.
Thanks, Cara, that was fantastic. I really love some of those practical examples of how and why you'd want to use this stuff. I mean, just on her point about sort of real-time feedback and getting audience reaction, I was just looking at the tweets on the hashtag while Cara was talking. I've got to say, some top gifting going on. Please keep that going. That's how I'm judging my performance. Next, I would like to welcome onto the stage Päivi Palska, who is Nokia's head of corporate social. She's a long-time Hootsuite customer and friend, and she's passionate about making technology human and the colour fuchsia. So I'd just like to give her a little round of applause and welcome.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
So delighted to be here in very good company today. So hello everybody, and hello everybody also there who are on the live stream, and a very special hello go to Paris, Budapest, and Espoo. My team members are there online cheering me on, and I wouldn't be here today without them. And that's why we have a story to tell today. I've been in the B2B high technology business for a long time, and my heart beats warmly then to making technology human, and also then what are the new things we can do in communications and marketing. So those are the things I've been working throughout my career in different marketing and communications roles. My heart bleeds blue for Nokia, but I'm very much known as the pink lady for social media at Nokia, wearing my fuchsia. You might find me on Twitter on Kalske or some of the industry events for Nokia with this signature color. I'm based in Finland, I'm Finnish, but I consider myself a global citizen. I've been working and living in the UK, in the States, in Germany, and a little bit in Japan as well. And most of all, of course, then working with my colleagues around the world in an international company. My every day is living with them in a global environment. So that's me. Let's get started. What are we going to cover today? A little bit about Nokia to give you the backdrop and the context. Then looking at what was the situation for us with the social media channels, the team, how we were working there. And then mostly I'm going to concentrate on a use case, on an event, which was a big marketing investment for us. What it was, what did we do, and what were the results, and then where we are today. So that's what I'm going to cover today. So Nokia, the company I bleed blue for. Nokia's people and technology have been shaping the future for decades, and they have introduced then the fundamental building blocks of the modern digital life of today. Our technology innovations have been fundamental building blocks of the and been at the major stage of the telecommunications over the years, and the inventions being like the transistor, optical fiber, laser, GSM cellular telephony, and much more. And then side by side with the technology innovations, we have been inventing ourselves as a company, and been, as you can see, there's a long heritage to rely on. Today we are 100,000 people strong company with a 23.6 billion euro turnover. So that's a fantastic, exciting environment to work in, and it, with the technological disruption which is going on, we're right at the center there, and not only at the center, but we're part of shaping and driving that, and what it means then to people and to businesses, how businesses connect with people, how industries and public services are run. So that's a little bit of the context. And now I'd like to take you a few steps back on the memory lane to last year, January the 14th, to Finland, Nokia headquarters, bitterly cold day, 30 degrees below zero, when all the hundreds of Nokia employees gathered around the headquarters to have a town hall outside because we were so many. And we were celebrating the integration with Alcatel-Lucent, which you can see there. And everybody will wear the Hansen hats, mittens, and down coats and woolen scarves. At that time we had woolen scarves, we were waving them up in the air and celebrating then Alcatel-Lucent joining us. Of course, then the other colleagues around the world were rejoicing too, but they were doing that a little bit more warmer temperatures. Merging two big technology companies is a big milestone, a really important one for our company. Of course, we started then the channel inventory for social media earlier than that. And the big part of last year was then done to look at where we are, what should we do as social media. The starting point was that we had over 100 global brand channels between the companies with well over 10 different platforms. Looking at our refreshed company and the business strategy, which ones did we want to keep? Which ones did we want to close? Which ones to migrate? Which new ones did we need? What are the audiences we want to reach? What are the resources we have in-house? So that was some quite heavy lifting to come to those decisions, as well as then to execute those decisions. And as social media professionals, you know how much affinity people have to their channels. So there were quite a few discussions and reasonings behind. So the reasoning for the social media ecosystem needs to be very solidly based on business facts and business needs. The other part, of course, is that we had a whole new organization come together. And how do we work together? With the new channel ecosystem, we created a playbook and social media guidelines telling then who is going to do what is the Nokia social voice, what is our common objective as a company, irrespective which business group or R&D unit or innovation center you work in. What is the common Nokia objective in social media? What do we want to achieve together? And how do we make people to play together across then the chosen channels? And of course, then part of this evaluation as well was to bring people all together on the same platform. That's where Hootsuite came in. We did a very systematic analysis of different vendors and then decided to go with Hootsuite, which then gave the different channel owners the power to schedule and look at their own channels, but also then to our corporate team then to have the needed control and then the guidance and then the access to the channels which we have and provide them the insights. So that was a lot of heavy lifting last year. So we had the tools, we had the processes, but most of all we had the people. Here's a picture of our team taken at Nokia headquarters with a few visiting team members, that which you might see. There's Mark and Jamie from Hootsuite who came to visit us. And this is where I kind of feel very strongly is that the people is what really matter. What kind of people you have, you need to have who are business savvy, who have the network within the company, so you have the trust of the organization that what you're doing is the right thing to do. Of course, they need to be socially savvy, but that needs to be then combined with being business savvy. And a little bit of a go-get attitude, and especially to have fun. We're a small, lean team. We are all represent different nationalities. We're situated in different countries, but I think that we have a lot of fun, and that's the way that you can do a lot of big things too, because there's something good going, a little bit of fairy dust happening there in the team with the very good positive momentum when you're having fun while you work and while you do that virtually. You do it over video calls, via chat, via team meetings, because it's very rarely you meet face to face and still have that team spirit flowing through. So I couldn't be more grateful for the team and what we have achieved together and the kind of collection of talent we have there. Now then comes the time to show. Last year was the kind of the build-up phase, getting the big building blocks in place to then execute social, to know where we're going. Mobile World Congress is the flagship event in our industry. It takes place at the end of February every year, and it's a big marketing investment where we see 2,300 companies over 4 days. There is over 100,000 attendees from over 200 countries. So you can just imagine, the competitiveness and the noise which exists there at the market. But that's the place where companies want to stand on the soapbox and make a difference and really then deliver on their messages and show where they have come lately. What are the latest launches? In 2016, Nokia was one of the social media top influencers at Mobile World Congress, so we came in the top 5. The challenge for us this year was then to, of course, execute of what we had, agreed the previous year, but practically we are a very lean and efficient way working company. So there was only one person on site. That was me. Also, we had a new refreshed strategy and our focus points. We needed to get the right message about Nokia out there, talk about the right topics. And of course, team members were working relentlessly in the back office, but they didn't have the line of sight then to the show floor. And how did we then achieve then to execute that? The outcome, I'm going to spill the beans and tell you what the outcome was, and then I'm going to tell you how we got there. So I'm really, really proudly presenting that the #1 social media influencer at Mobile World Congress was Nokia. But it wasn't easy going. And if we take first, let's take a show of hands. And if you may, I'll take, at the same time, a selfie while you're doing the show of hands. How many of you relate Nokia with mobile phones? Smile for me. Quite a few hands went up. And that is fantastic. At Mobile World Congress 2017, that was the time, a new chapter for Nokia phones to come into the market. They were launched by a brand licensing partner, HMD. And there was a lot of love and warm kudos to the Nokia brand through the launch of the phones. And that's, of course, good for the Nokia brand, also socially. And it helped to lift our social media presence. The challenge for our team was that in addition to having this wonderful love for the Nokia brand and devices, we needed to also to tell a little bit different kind of story about the whole of Nokia, talking about Internet of Things, ultra broadband connectivity, including 5G, cloud, virtualization, IP, virtual reality, digital health. So with a much wider scope to many different audiences, of course to telecom operators, but then also to some of the other players out there, the web scale companies, the verticals, the digital health companies, the financial institutions. So it's a big package, also with very different audiences. So I'm going to tell you then what kind of story did we tell from the show floor with a very short video clip, as told by our CEO, Rajiv Suri. So Rajiv, enter the stage.
We have good fortune to stand on the threshold of one of history's greatest leaps forward to usher in a new era, the fourth industrial revolution. Together, we can do things to make our life better, our industries more efficient, our planet more sustainable. We create the technology that delivers better lives, more efficient industries, a more sustainable planet, then we can do good business and do good. And that is what we can do together.
All right, then I'm going to touch about some of the tactics we used. Very much practical things. How did we achieve what we achieved? And give you some examples. And for me, the main thing, the really key is when you start to achieve the #1 position at the industry's most important event is, what are you going to say? What is your messaging? What is your strategic objective? What do you want to achieve? What kind of share of voice in which topics? And that's what the top line here represents. If you go to the web and look at nokia.com/MWC, you will see that they are the very same messages which have been aligned within Nokia. So it's a lot of work between the communications, the marketing, the branding teams, and the business teams to allow that these are the topics we go in for, the high-level messages, the granular messages, and what do we want to achieve in each of those. So that's absolutely fundamental, because then when you start to do your plan, you can then check back that do these social activities then relate then to the main topics. But in addition to that, it's a lot of hard work, a lot of detail. It goes with internal meetings, talking to your partner companies with their social teams, what are their plans, aligning those. It looks at competitor benchmarking. It is about writing very day by day, minute by minute, long Excel sheets. What are you going to execute when? Transforming that into the content scheduling tool in Hootsuite, so you can schedule some of those in advance. And what are you going to post when? What are the news that you're waiting for? It takes a lot of work behind the scenes before you can then execute. It's a little bit like a lot of spaghetti code, which is coming together, and then you can execute that through Hootsuite, and then it comes out wonderfully out to your audiences when it's live. But a lot of insight and excitement and blood, sweat, and tears behind then the results of the practical work. The other thing is, of course, how do you then leverage your own employees? When you're a 100,000 strong company with employees, that's a huge asset, of course. So we did a training to staff members. We had intranet updates. We have Jabber chat groups. And of course, as we especially trained the staff who were going to be there at the site, and wanted to inspire people to join in and share the Nokia news with digital posters and other means. So that was really important, which was happening before and during the show. And seeing is believing. Social media isn't just on your mobile phone. What we did is we had 160 screens around the world of what we call a wonder board. It's a social media screen which collects then the handles and the hashtags that you want in one place. And this one, which we built for Mobile World Congress, then also had the speakers, the daily agenda, collected there. And this is something that you can use yourself, by the way, as well. You can download it from getwonderboard.com. It's a Nokia Bell Labs innovation, and you can customize it for your own use. It just needs a screen and a Twitter handle. That's it, free of charge. And it's a great way to display and make the virtual more physical. It's the very same screen our customers and analysts and press were watching at several screens on site in Barcelona, as well as then the screens around the world. In B2B business, especially, there are many opportunities to apply for awards, and that's the case for at Mobile World Congress, where the Global Awards are a little bit like the telecommunications Nobel Prizes, if you may. So you put a lot of effort and investment in applying for those awards. And however wonderful your experts are, or how fantastic your innovations, you know that you're not going to win the jackpot of all the awards that you apply for, just for competitive reasons. That doesn't usually happen. So how do you leverage that? You pronounce them in advance. So you promote the awards collectively and standalone before the event in social media, taking people back to your portfolio pages and taking a little bit of that glory already in advance. And then when you win, then you celebrate. You celebrate with the team, you show that how proud and you are, hooray. And then you use social media for that. Did we have we had a wonderful, I wanted to show that, there we go. That was our Instagram post of the Global Award. Then of course, are all the people, the executives and experts from Nokia who were speaking at the show, and there were very, very many of them. So what we did is that we promoted them in advance, of course. Our CEO had a keynote at the GSMA. So on the bottom right, you can see we created a Facebook event where people could then subscribe to that event, as well as we did extensive promotion in advance on LinkedIn and Twitter especially. But for each of the speakers, even if they were very kind of focused technology topics, we could make them shine in social media before the event, so people would know to go there, but also then during the event. There's usually, there's some tens or hundreds of people in the conference room when they're speaking, and then that moment is gone. We can continue that moment and build the thought leadership when we combine the picture of the person who's speaking on stage from the live situation with then the quotes, what they were saying. So we were really making all the tens of Nokia speakers shine in social media, and then the thoughts stayed longer and built kind of they stayed longer in social media. I'm a Finn, so I'm allowed a few pronunciations. The third point was the demos, which we showcased, and it's kind of a pride of place to show always the very best at the edge of technology, what we have, and how can it help then the operators and humankind then to do better. But being a marketing and communications professionals, they can be very technical things, even though you understand the industry. So what we did with our demo teams in advance, we created tweetable demos. So when you're at the heat of the moment, when you or any of your colleagues are out there, they know what to say. What is the main message of this, what you're showcasing right now? And then, yes, of course, the people can then create more, but at least there's one solid message which you know that should go out if we're talking about a specific topic. And when there's tens and tens of showcases, both on the Nokia show floor, at partner booths and customer booths. So that's also helps then to stay on message and then support the big objective of where we want to go with our messaging. One of the biggest levers for us was live streaming. And as social professionals, I'm sure you know all how well video gets traction in social media. And for us, we were really delighted to see the love for Nokia. We did 3 Facebook live streaming events. One was going behind the scenes of Nokia Bell Labs, latest innovations, really behind the back scenes, and our experts showing some cool stuff from there. at the beginning of the show, just before the shop floor opened, we did a tour of the stand, kind of round robin of all the public demos out there and having our experts talk to them. With that, we reached more than 650,000 people, and for now it's been viewed almost 140,000 times. And that, of course, then brought a lot of love for us, but also then gave us the opportunity then to highlight again what are our messages and where can you find out more, which social channels to follow. Also, our executives did a few partner Periscope interviews, so it's really the live engagement helped a lot in our engagement. So those were some of the kind of practical tools and tips and what we did. And I have to say that we were quite then pleased with the overall results. And now, you know, after speaking, having the speakers point after Talkwalker, we have more granular insights, but for competitive reasons, what I'm going to show you today, these are all in the public arena. But I hope you enjoy them. So first of all, it's about social media, it's about media. Looking at the results of where Nokia was right after TechCrunch, after impressions in the high technology field, that's quite impressive. And also coming before some of the kind of more established media like NDTV, CNET. So that proved like Nokia social media was truly a media in its own right. And then this is from BrandWatch. Why is, you know, Nokia was the most talked about, the most influential brand at Mobile World Congress, hands down. When you look at, we're at the bottom with the highest engagement, and then comes the organizer, and then comes the rest of the industry. So for us, that was kind of, oh yes, we did that. What was the reaction? Here's our chairman, Risto Siilasmaa, who during the event tweeted a few times, and here's one of them, congratulating Nokia for the social media success. When your chairman sends a public message out there, that's pretty cool. But also, it wasn't only that. It was the other Nokia executives and staff in person coming to say thank you for making me look good in social media, of having my thoughts travel so far. And there were many who said that, and really many of our business leaders, they really saw that and wow, this is what you can do in social media, because they experienced it firsthand and personally. Another positive surprise was one of our big operator customers, whom I didn't know before, but whom I met at Mobile World Congress, came and shook hands. Congratulations to Nokia for social media success. It's not always you get to shake hands with the CEO of a big telecom operator, congratulating on social media. So we were relevant for our customers. And I also chatted with one of our main competitors with similar thoughts, as well as partners. So it's the endorsements and engagement with people, which was important. And of course, then the social media love and fan. We got 9 million brand impressions, and we got 48,000 more followers in 5 days. And that's when we were, you know, waving our silk blue scarves at Mobile World Congress. No woolen this more, but it was just 1 year from when we came together that we achieved this. And I can't thank enough all the fans and followers out there to help us to achieve this, what we did at Mobile World Congress. So where are we now? I think for me, a big thing is that internally we have moved from push to pull. We're being invited now to the tables. We're talking to marketing and communications, yes, but we're also invited to talk to sales. We're invited to talk to different business group leadership teams, the top guys' leadership teams, which is fantastic, because then you get to really engage with the audience internally who can make a big impact. And they understand we can have a business conversation and a social media conversation combined. And of course, we're building training packages and enabling then the rest of the company gradually. So it's a lot of internal work. How can we do better? And there's a saying which is that if you want to go fast, you go alone. And if you want to go far, then you go together. So it's all really about now building organizational capability. I think I'm quite close to the time now. I hope I've tickled your curiosity. There's only a few touch points I talked about today, but go find out more about in Nokia, in social media channels. I'd love for you to have a look, give back your feedback. I'd love to learn from you. So here's the ultimate collection. And with that, I'd like to say that we created technology to connect the world, and delighted to share this experience with you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Päivi, thank you so much. That was a fantastic talk. I enjoyed that so much. I was getting really quite lost in it, and then realised I need to do things like keeping an eye on the time. Absolutely fantastic. I love the story of integration. I think it's a real strong case study about the power of reaching out of that social media silo and creating an integrated and aligned story across, a significant organisation. I also really loved the talk of the playbook. I think this is something that we can all really learn from. Having that sort of consistent approach that really gives you the why, the who, the what, and the how of how you're approaching social. And I think there's no question that story, really tells us they have an answer to, okay, why are we in social? So brilliant. Thank you so much. Now, I would like to call up to the stage our panel. And this is being moderated by Rylan Holy, who is just on his way up at the moment. And they're going to be discussing the topic of driving business results through social media. Just give them a round of applause as they're coming up.
You can move over my slide. You don't need to see me. Perfect. Thank you. Well, thanks very much for our speakers so far. It's been really, really interesting and loads of really great insights. And it's great to have another fantastic panel here at the Hoot Social Breakfast. So let's get started once we've all got our waters. No worries. Great, so let's go around. So you're not matched underneath yourselves. Can you just rearrange, please? Really confusing. No, don't worry.
I'm the only girl, so I hope you can tell me about it.
Great. Well, let's start off with Halvard over there. So Halvard's joining us come all the way from Oslo as well. So we have a bit of a Nordic theme today. So Halvard is from the Oslo and Akershus University. Yep. Can you explain a little bit about your role and about the organization that you work for?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I work as a social media manager at the university in Oslo and Akershus. We have approximately 20,000 students, 2,000 employees. We do bachelor, masters, PhDs, and so on. I'm pretty much alone, actually. We don't have a social media team. I'm doing social media, but I work together with all our other teams. So I work together with the student communication team, the marketing team, the web people, and try to integrate social into those different teams. So we try to take down a bit that's only social media, but put it into the organization and into the communication department.
Fantastic. Cara, you explained a little bit before, but maybe just to sum it up again so people remember.
Cara Viscalia, Head of Solutions at TalkWalker, and we're a social listening and analytics company, and really specializing in reporting and analytics. And I'm excited to be a part of this panel today and speak with all of you guys on this topic.
I'm David. I'm from eConsultancy. We're a digital marketing publisher. We're sort of focused on best practice and trends. I head up the blog team, which is all the free content. We do have subscription content as well. And social for us is very much, it's an editorial function, so it pushes out, it's like 90% editorial, but similar to Harvard, we do work with marketing and sales teams as well to make sure that we're sort of well integrated.
Excellent. And Michael?
Yeah, hi, thanks for inviting me along today. So yeah, I'm Michael Ham from Axe PPP, social media manager there. Axe PPP is it's the healthcare insurer for the AXA Group, which is one of the world's top 25 or biggest companies. So within the team, it's looking at pulling everything together, taking a very risk-averse industry and organisation out into the social world and getting us engaged with our customers, our prospects, and other people out there interested in healthcare.
Excellent, great. So let's start off with a nice, easy question for everyone, and then I've got some, some specific questions for you all, and then we'll move into some questions from the audience. I think we're a little bit squeezed on time, so we'll start rattling through stuff. But audience, do start preparing some questions. It'd be great to get your participation. So firstly, let's start off with what social KPIs are you currently sharing with your board members or executive level sponsors that you're working with? And how has that changed over the year? Let's start with maybe Halvor.
Well, we finished making our own social media reports there, and as I said, we're trying to integrate that into the other stuff we're doing. So social media is a part of the different reports there. So like recruitment, of course, is a big deal for us, and that's basically we're trying to get impressions out to the younger people. So right there, we're looking at engagement, of course, and traffic. There, so the different KPIs for different projects we're doing there. So it's a lot. The total part, there's a lot of different things going on, and yeah, we try to stop saying that this month we had this many impressions on social, because it doesn't say a lot to anyone.
And so you're specifically aligning that to your recruitment goals as a university, then, I guess. Now,
yeah,
instead. Yeah, perfect. Cara?
Well, since being at Talkwalker, we just kind of advise our clients on what KPIs, and I think it really truly depends on the department and the persona that you're speaking to. And I think it's really, again, understanding the objectives of the organization and outlining that measurement program that can best meet their needs. And I think, again, emphasizing your point, it's really breaking down the silos that social media is just part of social media. It can be part of so many different aspects of a company, touches HR, recruiting, consumer insights, product development, communications, marketing. The power is there, and there's so much data, and now it's trying to fit it all in to measure it successfully.
Excellent. David?
Yeah, I think for us, we were for quite a long time looking at engagement, share of voice, how we were engaging with our audience versus our competitors. And we also track through Google Analytics, like traffic to the website. And we're actually going through a process now of trying to improve what we're tracking. So my MD quite rightly said, this traffic's all coming to the site, but what then happens to it? So we're just trying to improve now the way that when social traffic comes in terms of people buying products, signing up to our lead gen is our newsletter, so how many people are signing up to that? So we're actually going through a process now of actually, as with the theme of this event, actually tying it more closely to business goals rather than just looking at conversations happening on social media.
And so those might be like hard conversions then of people signing up to a newsletter?
Yeah, because we know sort of how many people signed up to the newsletter and then how many people down the funnel turned into a subscriber or something. You can actually tie a value to that. So it actually makes it much more tangible when you're speaking to somebody, to my MD, for example, and you can actually say, we drove this much traffic, this many leads, and this is the value to the company. Excellent. And Michael, at AXA, what are you doing there?
So in terms of, so the KPI, from a KPI point of view, back to a particular, like the comment that we mentioned earlier about we've moved a hell of a lot from moving from vanity figures to sanity figures, and always questioning, looking at the business objectives, well, what are we doing to achieve that? So back to like David saying, there are different points from conversion. So is that newsletter sign-ups from social? Is that leads that are coming through from maybe some DR activity that we're doing? So it's measured in so many different ways. So it's a big complex beast that we're just trying to make as simple as possible, and feedback to the business so that ultimately the business can see that objectives in different departments, from customer services, recruitment, acquisition, they're all being met.
So you just mentioned their customer services. So obviously, AXA being a heavily regulated industry, AXA is not its own industry, so the financial services industry is heavily regulated. How are you able to make sure that your customers are getting the best experience possible, or even growing, having more affinity to the AXA PPP brand within that regulated environment? What are the tactics you're using?
Twofold, really. So we started trialling social customer services with a dedicated team internally within PPP, which has traditionally always pushed new ideas into the customer service arena for our business. So we've been working with them over the last 6 months, actually getting them to monitor and work and use our channels from a customer service point of view. So we were seeing that we were getting maybe 30 or 40 unique conversation threads coming through each month where people were asking questions, there were queries, complaints, all manner of different things.
Yeah.
And just by getting processes in place for them, they've sped up the whole process of being able to deal with customer engagements of some description. And we're now seeing that the volumes are increasing to such where they've actually quadrupled month on month. But we're getting some great feedback, you know, as well as we're getting the complaints. It's probably 10 to 1 where we're getting actually compliments about the speed and efficiency of the services being provided.
Fantastic. And so have you seen that because obviously that all requires a lot of measurement, has that made any changes to the way business operates? Has that actually taken that data and has your organisation gone, we need to change something here, we need to move things around?
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of, you know, pulling different teams in to work on this. So we're just now working with one of the in-house MI and business analysts to actually, business intelligence guys to actually look at, right, we're pulling all this raw data, make it work for you. We can, you know, we've got all of this analysis that you can do is make it work for your part of the business. So the customer service elements are very different to marketing, to acquisition. And it's bringing everybody along a journey to educate them as to, right, social fits as a golden thread right through this business. It's a touch point for just about every single department. So how we're going to make it best work for you, what do you want to achieve from it? So we do an awful lot of awareness raising of what social can and can't do, and really show them that if they want to do X, right, we can't quite do X for you, but actually what we can do is Y, which is very similarly aligned, so they're starting to adapt to their way of working as well. Excellent.
And Halvar, I think when we met in Oslo this week after I paid around £20 for a beer, we were talking about how you actually, the data that you were getting through it, because there's a high penetration of social in Norway, as far as I understand, but you saw that through the data you had to innovate and you started looking at employee advocacy. So can you talk about that journey a little bit and what happened there?
Well, what we saw is that the youngest target groups were they were not disappearing, but didn't talk to us anymore. They were seeing our stuff, but there were like no more comments, and we couldn't see if they were sharing anything of our stuff. So they were like going into dog social. So we had to start looking into how can we do this better. And then we got a new president on board, Mr. Kurt Rice, and he was really good on Twitter, and he only speaks on Twitter almost. And we saw that taking away our logo and putting faces on social is making things a lot better. So we started working on getting our employees and our students to do the inspire and engagement stuff. So when we move our content over to our employees and make them share it, we get much better traffic back. So we're like moving our focus now on making our own people really good on social and a little bit less time on our logo platform, our institution platform, because they're okay, they're fine, of course, but the traffic we get from our employees are so much better.
And so those are your academics and so forth?
Yeah, there's all kind of staff. Like, together, their network is just perfect. They have so much different social networks, and together we're hitting more people with our message.
And just even adding on to that, I think we're seeing a huge trend in the industry in terms of creating authentic content and more personalized content. You're seeing that happen at first with advertising, but I think even in the social media space, that's why you've kind of seen an uptick in bloggers and influencer targeting. So I think it's really fascinating that you guys are already understanding that and measuring that and really improving your traffic.
Yes. So I mean, actually on that, well, two interesting things. I got an email from Melanie, my colleague, the other day, and I was talking with David about stuff in the email. We should talk about tofu. And I'm from Asia, so I was very excited to talk about tofu, and I was like, this is brilliant. We're going to talk about how social has an impact on tofu. But anyone know what that might mean, actually? It's top of the funnel, apparently. So I'm a bit less excited about that. But, David, I think, we were talking about how with potentially with content, do you think there's a point now where when we look at content, and a lot of us in here are social marketers, content marketers, Are we changing now to actually where we need to be thinking about creating content rather for the brand, but for the people who we work with? So we're talking about sales teams, for example. So every bit of content we write, it should actually be thought of as this has got to be shared by someone, or we're writing for that person in particular. Are we moving from being
I think
content
from a B2B perspective, you don't necessarily need to always be thinking this is going to be shared by someone.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's various social selling case studies. Like there's quite a famous one from IBM where they sort of trained their sales staff to work on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and I think they improved sales at something like 4 times of the previous quarter. And that was basically by, I think they gave them access to the content calendar so they could see what was being published, why it's being published, how it ties back to the industry. So they can then share that, and it sort of positions them as the industry experts. So it's not about just spamming everyone, it's about actually getting involved in conversations and actually like, so then it warms up leads because people can see that you're actually knowledgeable on that area. So then they know who you are, and then they know who you work for, and then when they're actually in the market for something that you might sell, then they know to go to you. It's similar to like for us, as a publisher, we get sent a lot of stuff by PRs, and just if I've spoken to a PR on social about the industry we work in, and then they email me, I'm much more likely to respond to that email than if I just get a cold email that comes through. So it works. You know, you can see it work sort of in your day-to-day life. So it's definitely something that marketers need to be thinking more of.
Excellent. Actually, Michael, a little bit on thought leadership there, and because obviously highly regulated, but I think you're also looking at becoming more of like a healthcare thought leadership engine in many ways. There to actually get to the brands, to your customers. Sorry.
I mean, it's humanising the brand really, because I mean, from a business point of view, we've traditionally always been a payer of claims. So we're insuring something which is doesn't really, well, apart from the healthcare elements and the different, really sort of delicate subject matter that we deal with, but it's making our move from being that payer to a partner, or rather a payer and a partner. So what we're doing actually is that working a lot with our experts internally. We have all manner of different experts from different medical fields that we have within the business. So it's breaking down the walls and the windows and actually giving people that view in, giving them a view on some of the specialist teams that we have, dedicated cancer nurses that we have, the psychological experts that we have, the different teams. So what we're doing is educating people along the way to lead healthier lives. And for the most part, 99.9% of the time, through our social channels anyway, we are not talking about health insurance. We're talking about healthy living. We're talking about health tech innovation, all of these different elements to become that go-to place to, we know about healthcare. So, prevention rather than cure in a lot of respects.
Excellent. So just going to ask one more question but if people could start preparing some questions now. One more question here for everyone. We saw the United Airlines stuff happen recently, and I think when I can't remember his name unfortunately, but he got kicked off the flight in a rather aggressive manner. And so, I mean, actually, Cara, maybe if you want to start off with this one.
Yeah.
Do you think they could have used social data better to sort of prevent that kind of vitriolic hatred that happened for United? I mean, what do you think on that?
Absolutely. I mean, I think, again, emphasizing the point of having an issue tracker in place and being able to set up real-time alerts. At Talkover, we actually have these smart spikes to inform our clients on a regular activity when issues are escalating, and I think that can make all the difference. As soon as you know something's taking off, you have to figure out immediately a strategy and how to mitigate that, control that, and isolate that situation. Also, even understanding in crisis what sort of items actually can change the story and the conversation. One of these items I like to talk about, as a crisis story, Ariana Grande got in a lot of, and she's a very sensitive subject today, but she got under a lot of scrutiny for several posts that she did, including a donut. And we were able to help analyze the trends around it and what helps change perceptions when there's negative connotations around posts. And it's looking at those trending items and looking that maybe when you change your perception or put a positive message out there, it can change the topic of conversation. So as soon as you know about potential risks happening, you have to control what you're saying and change your messaging.
I mean, do you all have plans in place for potential kind of, risk management scenarios?
I wouldn't say we have a plan, but because we work quite closely with the other departments. So when we do get complaints, which doesn't happen that often, but we can always go very quickly to the person who knows the answer if we don't know the answer, and then we can very easily resolve things.
Excellent. What often happens is that not often. Sometimes it happens that like somebody sees a tweet and like starts to go crazy. Oh, this is going to ruin us, and something's really wrong, and throw it back and forth, and we need to go into crisis mode, and then sit down and look what are people actually talking about. Okay, that one tweet didn't have anything to say here. That's like the 90% other tweets are saying something totally else. Calm down, it's under control. So it's about that, listening to what everybody is saying before handling the crisis.
Exactly.
Excellent. Let's have some. Here we go. One in the front here, and then do we have a mic running around? There you go. Here comes some mic.
Hi, I'm Alice Morrow-Farrell from WWF, Pandas Not Wrestlers. I'm really interested to know, we've recently implemented Facebook Workplace to improve our internal communications. We're a very large organisation, and it's helping employee advocacy, it's helping people who aren't so sure about using social themselves to use it internally. And I'm really interested to hear from all of you about what internal sort of social things you do to help employees or improve communication.
Halva, maybe? Because it's a...
Well, I work a lot with our students because we use students and we lend them our social media accounts. So I use Facebook Messenger for all internal communication because I need to talk with people outside the staff. So I need to use something open up there.
Anyone else using anything for...
We don't use Facebook for business, but I hosted a roundtable a few weeks ago where a lot of other brands said they were using it, and if that was kind of the best solution they had because people are used to using it already within their own lives. So I've been at various companies where we've tried to implement new intranets and things, and they've always been fairly unsuccessful. But a few people spoke quite highly of Facebook for business, so I think that's probably quite a good option to go with.
Yeah, we were Hootsuite was one of the first sort of trial users of Facebook at work, and now it's called Workplace, I believe. And the adoption's been fantastic. You know, we've had previous ones. I think one of their slogans is zero training because we've all use Facebook every day, so it's a great tool. There's lots of questions. It's brilliant. Okay. Someone's got closest to the mic over there, and then we'll come to you, and then someone at the back there.
Ant Davey at the Rail Safety and Standards Board, primarily for Michael. Customer complaints and feedback traditionally come in through email, phone call, letter. Mm-hmm. How did you drive your move towards social media platforms?
Twofold. First of all, it just happened organically because our customers were jumping onto social channels and actually giving us feedback through those channels. Secondly, with the advent of the more of the online sort of recommendation tools, so FIFO, for example, all driven online. So and people socially sharing those. So pretty much we had to jump onto those, and yes, a lot of them come through where people will organically just post up FIFO ratings, but then actually it's part and parcel of proactively going out and getting more feedback from people. Sorry, we do then still use traditional forms of going out, emailing people, speaking to them on the phone, and actually getting them to complete those surveys, those satisfaction surveys and questionnaires as well. So it's using a combination, really adding social in where it fits best.
Okay, thank you.
Over here.
So, Murray Suter from Fitch. It's a question for Howard, really. That employee staff kind of advocation through social channels, are you allowing them to use their own personal social media profiles? And if so, kind of how do you then mitigate the risk of somebody's talking about your company, what you do, and then at the weekend they go out, get drunk, and it all becomes messy?
Of course, there's a risk, but like we're all people. We're not 100% professionals. We do stuff in our spare time, and we have family, and we care of other stuff, and that's just making it more authentic. So we love when our staff use social media for whatever they're interested in, and also sometimes talk about us and share our content. And I believe that when they do that, it all gets just much better. People listen to them, they better click-through rates, when they visit our content, they stay for a much longer time, because the person who have shared it, told them to read this article, is a real person with a maybe complex interest field. Maybe they sometimes get drunk, but I don't know. Who doesn't?
You also have a really you also have a really effective solution, don't you, to help share content with people that, you know, might be one of the reasons why you're on here.
Yeah, we're using Amplify.
Really? Oh,
yeah. So yeah, Hootsuite helped us there with it's an app. We give it to our staff. They have a little app on their phone, and when they go in there, there's only our content. I put it out there through the Hootsuite dashboard. And with one, maybe 2 clicks, they can share it to their LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook profile. They can also go in and edit. Like I make the post, like picture and writing and the link, but they can go in and edit it and make it more their own if they want. But looks like 90% of it just goes right out. They like what I'm writing.
Great. I'll give you your payment afterwards, yeah?
Thank you.
Yeah. That's perfect, thanks. We'll have one more question from the audience. Someone at the back there. The lady in the middle. Or I guess whoever gets the mic first now. Okay, yeah, perfect.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Aoife Noon. I work at RBS. Really interested to hear the conversation this morning about metrics. I suppose similar to most people in the audience, it's an area that proves quite challenging. I look after the social selling program at RBS, which for those of you who are not familiar with what that is essentially using organic social, mainly in the B2B space, to enable our sales teams to connect with customers with the ultimate aim, I guess, to sell more products. The objective is really around thought leadership, building trust and advocacy. I'd be interested in your comments or suggestions around how we deal with the challenge around metrics. At the moment, we've got the so-called vanity metrics. So on Twitter, we can look at impressions, followers, etc. LinkedIn, pretty much closed platform, not getting much there. But to Kara's point earlier, if you go back to the senior execs and you present them with some lovely looking PowerPoint slides showing impressions, followers, etc., their eyes start to glaze over, and there's naturally the challenge back going, well, what's this actually delivering in terms of business results? So any comments from the panel on that would be great.
That is an amazing question.
Yeah.
Cara, do you want to answer that one first, maybe?
I mean, I would obviously look to incorporate some of those not metrics, the sales data that you're pulling in. What is actually the conversion that you're tying in, and really seeing the different linkages between the two. What is the overlaps? When are you driving the conversation on social? When are you actually getting the lead gens, and how is that directly related to the financial component? I've noticed with most C-level executives, they want to know the financial components, and the more you can tie that to the story, I think the better off you are in terms of measurement.
I think, just to add to that, I think it was the IBM case study, but they got like 3 or 4 people, a small number of the teams who actually bought into it quite a lot, and then they basically they trained them really well on social, and then the rest of the team didn't, and then they just measured how they performed versus the rest of the team. And it's going to take a long time for them to get an audience and for them to actually start building a profile. But if you can use sort of a small test study, see how well that performs. In terms of this, like lead gen is probably the best thing you're going to get from social sales, but then that will obviously then lead into hard conversion metrics. But I think if it's a difficult sell at the beginning, then get 2 or 3 people who really bought into it, and then see how well they perform versus the rest.
So let's just finish with one more question, closing question for everyone. It's not going to be as good as that question, sorry. But so you've got something in your diaries next week. I've just put it in. It's a meeting with your CEO. You've got 15 minutes with that CEO. What is the one thing you'd want to show them to show that, I have made a real impact to the business, and you're going to promote me today because I've done that? Michael.
Okay, so last year we started off. We're looking at getting more engaged with our customer base, with our prospects. So rather than broadcasting all the time, is actually get them engaged. So we had a socially led campaign, which was to get people to actually join in 3 consecutive health challenges. So really about getting engagement, getting feedback from people. Over the course of the 3 challenges, we had just short of 4,000 people who took up the challenges, a caffeine curfew, a walking for 30 minutes per day, and a mindfulness challenge. Throughout that time, basically, the amount of people that signed up, we were capturing data from them, so emails. 89% of the people that participated weren't our existing customer base. Right, okay, so we can look at that from that point of view. But also then just really through the work that we're doing because of the nature of the industry, we won an award last year recognised by the industry. So we won it was the Insurance Times, which one was it now? The best use of social media for the industry, which that certainly got the that will certainly get the attention of the chief exec who likes awards.
Perfect, good. Promoted. Next. David?
I mean, my answer's way less impressive, but I think, e-consultancy, we've sort of built a position within the market. It comes almost back to the social selling point where we adopted social quite early on, and we've got a huge following now because we were able to build that. We recognise the importance of social from quite an early stage. So it's why we're sort of respected within the industry as for digital marketing and e-commerce trends. And it helped us to establish our tone of voice so people sort of know who the brand is. And it means that, we get invited to speak at events like this and things. And that's largely, it's not all down to social, but our sort of activity on Twitter has largely sort of fed into that. And I think my CEO, thankfully, is somebody who understands social. So he would understand that without me having actual metrics.
Perfect. Cara?
Yeah, sure, of course. Well, I'd use my measurement program that I developed, and I'd take a high-level scorecard into the CEO and actually show the percentage of change since I started implementing various initiatives to see how I've really moved the needle because of X, Y, and Z.
Great. Albert?
Yeah. I would be talking about, employee advocacy. I would show the numbers of, see here, this is your employees. All these people are active in social. Together they have this big of a network, and each month they're driving this amount of traffic to our different pages and articles. So I would tell them, go and say hooray and say hello to everybody.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much, everyone. It was a great panel, and let's give them a round of applause. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, that was fantastic. I'd also like to thank our friend from RBS there for that question because that perfectly sets up what I'm about to talk about. So why is social ROI so challenging? If it was easy, everyone would be doing it, right? So the first thing that we find is that attribution is a problem. It's always been a problem. And it's because of this kind of thing. We're used to talking about marketing and sales with these nice, clean loops where one arrow goes from one stage to the next. But it doesn't look like that. I talked earlier about my car buying process, and it's kind of more like this. It's a big, messy ball of interactions, and each one will have a different effect on the decision to purchase or whatever that sort of key business objective you're looking at. And let's not forget that customer service fits in here as well. So, we all know a few weeks ago what happened with United, and Ryland made mention of it earlier. It's not, customer service isn't always going to be positive. How are you factoring that into your kind of overall attribution model? But this isn't a new thing. There's always going to be issues around that, but it's finding the best model, the best proxies that give you the information that you need to make smart marketing decisions. Social data lives in walled gardens. All of the social channels have their own particular models to report on the success or reach or whatever metrics you like to choose. And part of the problem is that within those little sealed ecosystems, we need to pick out those right metrics to paint the best picture for us. And they're sometimes not that willing to provide that. And even when it is, there's quite a lot of work to unify those inconsistent formats. And especially if you're producing a month, a monthly report, sometimes you can be spending hours trawling through all those different sources of statistics to pull them through into Excel and PowerPoint to send them off to your CMO or whoever's interested in that. And that's not always sustainable, especially when you're a small team or one person by yourself doing this kind of stuff. Dark social, people are talking about this a lot. This is one of those key factors within that walled garden. This is the ultimate walled garden. There's activity that is paying towards consideration, consumption of content, sharing that we just can't see. We can't track it. There's a great stat from Radium 1 that 84% of content shared on mobile is through a dark social channel. And as mobile messaging grows, this number is only going to get bigger. So how are we looking at that? Well, we've got tools and techniques that we use to help fill in these gaps. But there's a lot that we're just never going to be able to track. But again, that's not a new thing. People talking in coffee shops, has been happening for hundreds of years about your product or your experience or your service. And that's something that we're never going to be able to touch. Finally, data sets really aren't integrated as much as we need them to be. So, how are you plugging your social data into your CRM platform, into your business intelligence platform, so you can have that nice unified view of every single one of those, or as many as possible of those touch points. That elusive 360-degree customer view, it's just not a reality yet. There's some incredibly powerful case studies of where companies have got pretty close to it. A friend of mine's a CMO at a big travel company, and he's saying that by connecting their social reporting into their CRM system, they've seen that there's a 3 times uplift in their repeat booking rate, which is a really key statistic from them. The 3 times increase by people that are exposed to a social message at some point along that route. So, not necessarily saying it's the last route or the last touch point or first touch point, but just somewhere along that. If you can track that, you can see the difference. And until we start getting better at integrating those, we won't be able to see that full picture. This is a model around social and digital maturity that we've talked to maybe 200 different organisations about. And looking at how an organisation is measuring the ROI of social and obtaining value from it is a really, really key part in ascertaining the level of social you're at. So that first step is connecting it to your business objectives. Ask yourself, why are we using social? Is it because we think we have to, or is there solid reason for it? And that comes from that maturity comes from 3 building blocks. Having your people have the right skills, having the right understanding of the impact of social on their business objectives, having the capacity as well. This isn't something that happens on a Friday afternoon for half an hour. And that's absolutely critical that this extends to the senior leadership as well. They have to understand why their staff are working on this stuff. Processes, so developing a culture of making data-driven decisions and using that to test and learn to improve performance. And I don't know if you've heard of the concept of the HIPPO, the highest paid person's opinion. This kind of approach is your key tool in defeating those HIPPOs. There's a really good example of, we all see those blog posts saying, this is the right time to post on social media. There is no right time. There's only the right time for your audience. So how are you figuring out when that's going to be? And finally, the platform. Social platforms give out tons and tons of analysis, but it's time-consuming and inconsistent to track this over multiple channels. So as your use of social grows and becomes deeper, what are those tools that you're going to use to spread across that? So how can we help? Well, we've just launched a new product, Hootsuite Impact, which has come from one of our recent acquisitions. And it's all about how we help you provide the value of social to make those data-driven decisions. We've got over 500 metrics that can go into a single dashboard, and they can be collected, organised, compared, and reported upon. And this even feeds into other business intelligence tools you're using. And one of the great things is, as well as providing fantastic dashboards that mean hopefully you won't have to do that Excel and PowerPoint thing, they also give you recommendations in plain language. And it really quantifies the impact of social by spanning across those, that social through to completion on Google Analytics or Omniture or however you're tracking that. And we know it's going to help our clients transform their approach to measurement and rethink their social strategy from top to bottom. So we've got a white paper. Everyone that's here today or has joined the live stream will be emailed a link to download this. Don't bother writing them down from there. And this goes into a lot more detail about this topic. It's fantastic. And for anyone in the room, after we finish here, go out into the lobby where we're having coffee and talk to any of the Hootsuite staff you'll see there who can give you much more information on this stuff. So in wrapping up quickly, firstly, make sure you're aligning to your business objectives. If it sounds like we've been repeating this a lot, it's because it's really important. But it's not one size fits all. So it's finding that context for your organization and using those to make data-driven decisions. Hunches are great, but data's even better. And aligning your people and culture and providing them with the skills and the abilities and the space to work on this is the final point. These are things that we must have in alignment to make this stuff work. But this is only the beginning. I'd want to quote from one of our panelists earlier on. Let's focus on sanity metrics, not vanity metrics. At this point, I'd like to hand over to Rylan.
Great. So can we all please stand now so we can take a minute to remember the victims and the families of those affected by the events in Manchester this week. We'll end this minute of silence with an applause to show our respect and our support to our friends and the people of Manchester.
Thank you. So we've got a couple of stands out in the lobby with staff from Hootsuite and Talkwalker who are there waiting to talk to you. And just want to finish off by saying a huge thank you to all of our speakers and panelists, and thanks to you all for joining us today.